So after today, when the MLSPA has officially done the ratification vote and have agreed on this new revised CBA and basically all the finalization of this new collective bargain agreement is now agreed on, we have now officially got the full detail of how this new revised CBA is going to look like. Now, I know there seems to be a lot that I wrote here on the board, and you might think that this is going to be probably one of those long videos that I'm going to be making. Trust me, it's not going to be one of those long video, and most of the things I'm going to explain here on the board are pretty self-explanatory. So, the new collective bargaining agreement will start on February 8, 2021, which is today, and it will last all the way until January 31st and in 2028. So, I know people say that, it lasts till 2027, and does that mean that basically the CBA will expire on that year? Well, technically it's kind of a little bit misleading, and what they kind of meant was that it's going to last all the way to the end of the 2027 off season, and basically it expire in the off season during that time and prior to the beginning of the 2028 season. Now, in terms of MLS player compensation in this new collective bargaining agreement, so starting in 2023, there will be a 12.5 increase on the salary budget, GAM, and the salary cap, with further increase in 2025, 2026, and 2027 season, that there's going to be a 25% increase of the budget, the GAM, and also the cap. So basically this means that the current salary budget, which is at 4.9 million, that's going to be the same, remain in 2022 and 2023. And I guess the reason why they want to remain the same is because, they hope that by 2023 fans are going to be back in the stands, and there's going to be some sort of normalcy where we're not going to see this global pandemic that's going to continue until then. And by then, basically, the league is going to once again make some revenue and hope to continue to increase their growth. And that's why they decided to kind of set that year as the time to kind of continue to increase the salary budget, the amount of general allocation money teams get to use, and most importantly, the salary cap. But as I said, the current salary budget is $4.9 million. By 2027, it will increase to $7 million. The current general allocation money each team has is $1.5 million. By 2027, that is going to increase to $3.9 million. And the current cap is currently at $9.25 million. By 2027, the salary cap will increase to $13.01 million. Now, in addition, there's also the discretionary TAM, where we've seen the discretionary TAM have also decreased over the year. It's gonna also follow the same format, where starting in 2023, the discretionary TAM will continue to decrease and take a 12.5% decrease, and the same goes once we get to 2025, 2026, and 2027, that there's going to be a 25% decrease of discretionary TAM. Now, max salary budget charge will pretty much follow the same model as the increase on the salary budget, GAM, and the cap. And what that basically means is that the max salary budget charge will increase 12.5% starting in 2023, and by 2025 it will increase to 25%. So currently the max salary budget charge is $612,500. In 2027, it will be $883,438. The minimum salary on senior roster will also start to increase, and this is one of the things that the MLSP has been really fighting for, where they want to make sure that for players that making the bare minimum in the senior roster wants to increase the amounts that they earn. And indeed, they're going to do that, where by 2027, their salary that they are making the bare minimum when they're on the senior roster will increase from $81,375 to $125,875. The same case is for the players that are currently on the reserve roster and are making the bare minimum, where they're going to have their salary increase from $63,547 to $97,700. And most importantly, the another thing that was kind of key to see how this new CBA is going to look is there going to be change in terms of the DP rule? And the answer to that is no. There's going to be no change to the DP rule. The league is going to gonna remain the same with every single team only have 3 designated player. I was kind of interested to see whether or not they were thinking about changing and maybe thinking about adding another DP, or maybe in some way where they might increase the budget enough where teams don't usually need to have to use a DP spot if they want to sign one of those players. Like, I think eventually, once as the salary and as the cap continue to increase, we are going to start seeing times where maybe the DP slot is kind of a little bit useless anymore, and it just gets to a point where when you're paying like that amount of money, it's kind of almost the same. What would you do when you try to sign a player on a DP contract before? So I think the DP rule over the years, it's going to kind of become a little bit obsolete with the way that the salary cap increased. But that being said, I was thinking maybe before we get to that, maybe they might add another DP. And I know there are some teams, especially some of those teams that are very ambitious in terms of their spending, are kind of trying to lobby to add an extra DP spot, and just trying to make sure MLS team, not just the fact that with the condensed schedule they want that these team wants to make sure they can able to spend more on players, but also when they do go into these continental competition like the CONCACAF Champions League, they demand the league to add another DP and also increase their budget so that they can have enough good, decent player that they can face off against these Liga MX and Central America opponent in CCL. Now, in terms of free agency, and this is one of the things that we also heard that the MLSPA demand that the free agency rule needs to be changed, and indeed MLS have decided to change the free agency rule, although they kind of, I feel like the MLSPA kind of got half of what they were bargaining toward MLS in terms of changing the free agency rule. So on one hand, the MLSPA got what they want, where they demand the free agency rule to now being players that is now once they turn 24 and have 4-year service in the league, they can of course go into free agency. But here's the thing that the MLSPA did not get, which is this will only begin in 2026. The MLSPA says that they want to have this and want to begin this as soon as possible, and the league basically said, well, yeah, we can give you that, but on the other hand, we want to also make sure that this, of course, begin in 2026. And I honestly don't know why exactly the league decided to do that. I guess maybe this is the league saying that, well, we don't want to make sure we give you everything you want, so here's kind of like a half kind of piece of thing that we or a 50% kind of thing that we promise to do, but we also will have a 50% kind of right to kind of hardball you and say that we're not going to begin this kind of thing that you've been asking for until 2026 season has begun. Now, the other free agency thing that is on this current or on this news collective bargaining agreement, I'm not really going to kind of explain because it does get a little bit tricky to kind of explain this, but I kind of also copy and paste of what I saw on the article and pretty much put it on the board. So now for players that is making salary budget charge or max salary budget charge, players can sign with another their team with a contract with an initial salary of the greater of 25,000 above the max salary budget charge, or 20% above players' prior salary. But for players that is not only making max salary budget charge but also making a max TAMP contract, once the player does sign with another team, they can of course earn 20% above salary up to 500,000 above the maximum salary budget change, and 15% of such salary from 500,000 above the max salary of the max TAMP amount. But yeah, overall, that is pretty much the full detail on how this new collective bargaining agreement is going to make. And I think there are a couple of things that they didn't really kind of mention that I wish they kind of address, and probably the one obvious thing that they didn't mention in this new CBA that both sides eventually agreed on is the charter flight. I'm kind of surprised that the MLSPA didn't lobby and tell the league that we want to make sure that every team no matter matter if it's the playoffs or even the regular season, that every single team will have charter flight pretty much in every single game. And I believe they kind of did that during last season, where every team had to take a charter flight, but that was mainly because we were in a pandemic, and obviously the league had to pretty much force all these teams to basically use charter flight for their travel, because if you decide to have some player travel on commercially, that could definitely increase the risk of potentially that player getting COVID-19. But I was hoping this temporary thing was probably going to stay, or at least, maybe the amount of flight that these team gets to have, or the amount of charter flight that these team gets to have, is going to continue to increase year by year, kind of similar to what happened with the salary budget, the GAM, and the cap situation. But it seemed like that's not going to be the case, and it's going to pretty much stay the same. But overall, I just feel like eventually there's got to be some day where every MLS team have the rights to have charter flight for every single away games that they play, because right now MLS is really the only professional league here in America that does not actually have their team mandate to have all their away game to be put on a charter flight. So I really hope that's eventually going to change down the line, but as of now, that seems like it's not going to be the case, or at least until 2028. And also, the other thing I noticed from this new collective bargaining agreement is that I didn't see any kind of hidden kind of agreement where there might be, let's say, a forced margin clause, or there's a way where this new revised CBA that both sides agreed could potentially be terminated, and that both sides have to be once again locked into a talk, like what happened with the last CBA agreement that both sides have agreed. So I'm assuming most likely we don't have to deal with the same issue that we've been dealing with for the last couple of weeks, and generally pretty much for the last a year and a half, with both sides seems to be locking in horns and just getting very angry at each other and kind of bickering against each other on how this new CBA is going to look. But it will also be interesting to see how the relationship between both sides is by the time this CBA is going to expire in 2028. Like, I know 7 years is definitely a long time and a lot could change, but something tells me maybe the relationship is not going to improve unless if eventually, like, I feel like maybe the MLSPA feel like what they got in this is maybe not what they expected. I mean, after all, pretty much I know with every single league here, a lot of time the player association, when they agree on a CBA, they always tend to feel a little bit bicker about, or a little bit bitter about that, because they kind of didn't get everything that they got, and that in some way they feel like they might want some retribution heading into the next CBA kind of talk. So in 7 years, I wonder, is the MLSPA going to try to do that? And especially, I have heard people say that, well, the reason why the MLSPA kind of had to force to agree on this collective bargaining agreement is the fact that they just cannot afford to have a lockout. And unlike other leagues here in America, a lot of these players are not earning a lot of money and cannot afford to have a lockout and lose a lot of salary. But as I mentioned, with the salary continue to increase, is there getting to a point where maybe in 7 years time, where all these players maybe even think about having a saving account and make sure they put all their money in the reserve, in case where maybe in 7 years time they're going to definitely looking for some retribution and definitely looking to demand MLS to get what they want, or else they're actually going to be going to a lockout. And even if MLS thinking that, yeah, you can't afford to go to a lockout, you're probably going to lose a lot of money, and the MLSPA and all those players said, yeah, I know you're probably thinking of that, but remember how those 7 years we've been secretly keeping this large stash of money in the reserve? Yeah, those are the money that we will give to our players, and in case if their lockout does happen, and those kind of money will be enough where we could definitely survive a long lockout Now, even if we're going to lose money and not getting anything during that lockout situation. So that's kind of an interesting thing to think about down the line, but hopefully during these next 7 years there's going to be some labor peace between both of the side. And I'm just glad that for the next 7 years we hopefully won't have to deal with this again, because it's really frustrating, the fact that I have to kind of talk about this. And you know, you don't ever want to, like, as fans, you never want to be in a situation where the league could potentially on the brinks of going into a lockout, and potentially you're not going to be seeing your favorite team play on time in the regular season, just because both sides are not happy with each other, and there's been some labor unrest between both sides. But either way, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this new CBA agreement that's going to go all the way to 2028. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.